There are moments in life that defy explanation. They arrive not with fanfare, but with a subtle shift in perception, a quiet rupture in the veil that separates the mundane from the mythic. A person may be walking through their ordinary day when suddenly something ancient stirs within them. It might be a dream that feels older than time, a phrase overheard that vibrates with uncanny familiarity, or a sudden recognition in the eyes of a stranger. These are not coincidences. They are invitations. Invitations to remember. This remembering is not intellectual, it is cellular. It is the soul whispering, "You've been here before." And with that whisper, the journey begins. Not toward something new, but toward something long forgotten. Toward a deeper consciousness that has always been present, waiting patiently beneath the surface of identity, culture, and conditioning. For some, this awakening feels like a communion with a future self. Not a fantasy, but a frequency, a resonance that calls them to align with a version of themselves that has already walked the path. This future self is not bound by time. It exists in the liminal space between what is and what could be, offering guidance, clarity, and a sense of profound recognition. The seeker may begin to receive intuitive downloads, symbolic dreams, or flashes of insight that seem to come from nowhere. But they are not from nowhere. They are from the soul's own archive, from timelines that run parallel and intersect in ways the rational mind cannot grasp. This communion is not a shortcut. It is a mirror. It shows the seeker what is possible, but not what is guaranteed. The journey must still be walked. The lessons must still be lived. And the human experience, with all its madness, beauty, heartbreak, and repetition, remains the crucible for transformation. There is no bypassing embodiment. The soul chose this incarnation for a reason, and that reason is not always comfortable. It is not always clear, but it is always sacred. As the seeker deepens into this journey, they may feel compelled to share what they've discovered. The knowledge, the visions, the revelations, they burn brightly, and the desire to awaken others becomes almost irresistible. But here lies one of the most painful truths of the spiritual path. You cannot force another to wake up. No matter how much information you carry, no matter how many lifetimes you've remembered, no matter how clearly you see the architecture of control or the pathways to liberation. If someone is not ready, they will not hear you. They cannot hear you. Their soul has not chosen this moment, and to interfere is to violate the very sovereignty that awakening is meant to protect. You may try. You may knock gently on the doors of their consciousness. You may offer symbols, stories, and truths that have transformed your own life. You may even relive a past life in their presence, hoping that the echo will stir something deep within them. But if they are not ready, the knock will go unanswered. The door will remain closed. And this is not failure. It is sacred timing. Each soul has its own curriculum, its own initiations, its own divine clock. Some awaken early, some late, and some not at all in this lifetime. To accept this is to honor the mystery, to trust the intelligence of the soul, to release the illusion of rescue. The illusion of rescue is seductive. It tells us that if we just say the right thing, share the right insight, or embody the right frequency, we can save others from their suffering. But true service is not coercion. It is embodiment. It is living your truth so fully, so unapologetically, that your very presence becomes an invitation, not a demand, not a sermon, an invitation. And if they decline, you love them anyway. You walk your path anyway. You trust their soul anyway. Because awakening is not a group project, it is an individual initiation, and while we may walk alongside others, we cannot walk for them. This realization can be heartbreaking, especially when those we love remain asleep. We see their potential, we feel their pain, we know the freedom that awaits them. But we must learn to hold space without attachment, to offer without expectation, to witness without judgment. This is the sacred patience of ascension. Ascension is not a race. It is not a checklist. It is not a hierarchy. It is a slow, spiraling expansion of consciousness that honors the human experience rather than bypasses it. It requires patience, humility, and a deep respect for the timing of the soul. It asks us to stay present in the madness, to find meaning in the mundane, and to integrate the light into the shadow. Yes, the human experience can be maddening. The density, the repetition, the forgetting. It can feel like a prison. But it is also a temple, because it is here, in the grit and grief of embodiment, that the soul earns its wings. To ascend is not to escape, it is to integrate, to bring the wisdom of future selves into the chaos of now, to walk with both knowing and humility, to honor the mystery. There will be days when the seeker feels alone, when the world seems asleep and the burden of awareness feels too heavy to carry. There will be moments of doubt, despair, and disillusionment. But these too are part of the path. They are initiations. They are invitations to deepen, to surrender, to trust. And in those moments, the seeker may remember that they are not alone, that others have walked this path, that the future self is always near, whispering encouragement, offering guidance, and reminding them of the truth they carry, that the soul's journey is not linear, but cyclical, that every descent is followed by an ascent, that every shadow holds the seed of light. The seeker may also begin to notice subtle shifts in their reality, synchronicities, symbols, encounters that feel orchestrated by something greater. These are confirmations. Not that the path is easy, but that it is real, that the soul is listening, that the universe is responding. And as the seeker continues to walk, they may begin to embody a new kind of presence. A presence that is grounded, clear, and compassionate. A presence that does not need to convince, but simply is. This is the power of integration. The power of living the truth rather than preaching it. The power of becoming the invitation. Others may be drawn to this presence. Not because they are being forced, but because they are ready. Because something in them recognizes the frequency, because their soul has chosen this moment. And when that happens, the seeker becomes the mirror, the lighthouse, the guide. But even then, the journey remains sacred and individual. The seeker does not become the guru, they become the witness, the companion, the reminder. And they continue to walk their own path, knowing that awakening is not a destination, but a way of being. In time, the seeker may look back and see the beauty in the madness, the perfection in the pain, the wisdom in the waiting. They may see how every moment, every challenge, every heartbreak was part of the initiation, part of the remembering, part of the becoming. And they may smile, not because the journey is over, but because they have learned to walk it with grace, with patience, with trust. Because they know now that the soul's journey is eternal. That awakening is a spiral. That ascension is a dance. And that the human experience, maddening as it may be, is the most sacred stage of all.